when you look at the arrests that are ongoing, but then I am proud that there are certain things that are taking action.
Okay. Like what?
So when you, for example, when you look at what is happening in Parliament, some members of Parliament are worried and scared that if at all they got involved in any level of corruption, they are likely to face the law. Then the other side of the coin, others who want to, to push for the censure motion are also still thinking or contemplating on the decision. But nonetheless, it is good that we are watching all of this unveil before our eyes.
Well, it is a beautiful thing, by the way. It's quite a great sight indeed. And of course, we wait to see, will it end on just arrests or something more is going to happen? Are you looking forward to seeing maybe some of them have already been remanded, but are you looking forward to seeing, in the event that they are found guilty, are you looking forward to seeing that they are actually sent to the coolers to serve time?
I wouldn't wish coolers for anyone.
If they are found guilty.
But if they were found guilty, for justice to prevail, the same way it has been prevailing for the less privileged,
yes,
I think then it would be the best course of action for the Ugandans to fully believe that justice is served. Because, over the years we've been hearing these stories about swindling public funds, and when you have the culprits, and then we also get the evidence,
yes,
like you've mentioned, if they are found guilty, then obviously if you're found guilty, you have to pay. You have to face the punishment by law.
Yes.
So that means it will shock me, but again, it will be the best solution.
Why will you be shocked?
Because, why it will shock me, because as our leaders, we expect them to be exemplary. And if you find that all evidence is driving towards the same leaders who have been saying that it's just alleged, and if the evidence comes out and it completely shows that they have been involved, there are certain things that happen and you're like, anyways, maybe it's allegations and stuff. But if at all the evidence comes out and proves that these people have been involved in these corruption tendencies, and then, of course, there were also reports last week that one legislator had millions of money in the house. So when you hear all of these cases, and then you get the same evidence that puts this person behind the coolers, I think it is a shocker because it is a leader. But then, of course, it won't be a surprise, because if you're guilty, by law, you're supposed to face it rough at the end of the day. And of course, justice has to serve, has to prevail. And then furthermore, citing a cautious warning to any other leader who wants to indulge in such acts in the long run.
In the long run, one pertinent statement and question that the president asked when news of the 500 million shillings that was given to the former leader of opposition in Parliament, Mathias Mpuga, and his cronies, the president asked, do we have enough money to go around, yet we have infrastructure like roads that needs to be developed? Where is this money coming from, and was it legal? Has there been an investigation? He even put the Attorney General to the task to find out if what was done was either legal or illegal. And here we are now, we have some members of Parliament already on remand. Good morning, Mr. Chirabo Robert Nyenyintono. I love your names.
Well, good morning. I love you. I don't want to make a mistake.
Try.
But I think it's a type of green.
Yes.
And, well, for us who have lived long, we know only light green, dark green. So I may, is this grass green?
It is neon green.
Come again? Neon
green.
Okay. Now, I was hearing and listening to my young brother.
Yeah.
Trying to put so much on something you asked about. I just want to tell you, Ugandans, I've lived long enough that I'm no longer excited by arrests of corruption.
Why so?
Because it is like in the Bible, there is where Jesus said, or the scriptures say, and I want to put this to our situation in Uganda, that it is as hard as a needle, it is as hard as a camel passing in the eye of a needle to convict a VIP, a well-placed person in Uganda of corruption. Just look at an eye of a needle and the possibility that a camel can pass through. We talk of the likes of Jimmy Ramafa. I think he was pardoned by His Excellency. Chandi Jamwa for NSSF. Geoffrey Kazinda, he was the principal accountant of the Office of the Prime Minister.
Yes.
For some reason, he's still there, and is the example we can give. I think by the likes of, was it Che, also in the same thing. I'm trying, but you see, you just count
just a few.
Just a few. But when you look at reports being done by the institutions that fight corruption in this country, when you read through the report of the IGG, when you read through all these various institutions that fight corruption, State House Anti-Corruption Unit, we can mention have so many of these units, and they show the monies that are being stolen.
By people of influence.
By people. Now, we have a ghost that takes money in this country. Because at the end of the day, going through a judicial process, having sufficient evidence to convict someone is as hard as a camel passing through the eye of a needle in this country. If a person has billions, one time I'll share with you off camera a story that I covered in my line of journalism. You know, when they arrested Geoffrey Kazinda, there were other people sitting also the Prime Minister. Now by then we had Grace Akuro. She was the director CID. And we had connections like the media. By then we had a very strong team that was working with CID, so it would be tipped off. Now they were going to search a home of some person who was within that scandal.
And
what I saw with Sudiru Byaruhanga,
yes,
because we climbed a tree and we were looking in the fence, is a story I'll tell offset.
A story Robert will share offset, but what does this mean to you as a Ugandan? Because we know that there is a high level of corruption, especially when it comes to people of influence in our country. And yet, when you see arrests being done or being carried out, just a handful of people, and to Ugandans, some of them think that these are just scapegoats. Why don't you get the big guys? Because we know the big guys. We've seen the big guys over the years. And
you never have the sufficient evidence, my sister.
Yes, exactly. Because
no sufficient evidence.
Evidence is very important.
Is it a case of not having sufficient evidence, or is it a case of us trying to pretend that there is no sufficient evidence?
The rule of law.
Tomato, onion.
No, Olive, it's not us pretending. Maybe
no, not you and I and Robert, but the country, the people that are doing the investigations.
No, you may actually think about it from both sides. One, there might be an element of us pretending that maybe these cases are there and we are not seeing them, or we are not paying close attention. But again, when you go to the courts of law, they will ask you for the evidence. And taking us back to the evidence, we all know that even those who are willing to stand against those who are accused at times are scared
or
to
be
stand
witnesses.
against them.
And remember our law, anyone is presumed innocent until proven guilty by a competent court, proven beyond reasonable doubt.
All right. Well, it is a very enlightening conversation here, but also it sheds quite a dark picture for us. Regardless, it is good that we are seeing some arrests, but we don't want to end at arrests. We want to see a conviction or 2 or 3 or 5 or 100. That's when we'll know that justice indeed is served. And with that being said, Robert Chirabo will take us through some of the local news that has been gathered over the last 24 hours. Which
better story to start than affairs happening at Parliament regarding members of Parliament who some choose to abscond for fear of being arrested. Now, members of Parliament have been advised, those that are allegedly to have been issued criminal summons, to comply and appear to avoid being embarrassed, like Busiki Member of Parliament Akamba Paul. This comes at a time when a list of members of Parliament suspected to have involved in corruption activity is circulating on social media platforms. Meanwhile, Remiyaga legislator Theodore Sechikubo, the mover of the motion to impeach 4 backbench parliamentary commissioners, has refuted allegations that he is selling his motion to the commissioners at 2 billion Uganda shillings. Last week, a list of members of parliament was circulating on social media platforms with allegations that they have been summoned by CID for engaging in criminal activity. This comes at a time when members of parliament had gone on recess, and this is the reason some MPs say are not around parliament, but note that they were summoned and summons are against them. On the brutal arrest of member of parliament for Busiki County, Akamba Paul, MPs said it was not proper since he had just been given bail by police. On the exercise of collecting signatures to impeach 4 backbencher parliamentary commissions who shared 1.7 billion as service award, the mover of the motion, Theodore Sechikubo, says when MPs return on Tuesday, which is today, they will acquire the signatures to write the notice to the Speaker. He refuted allegations about selling the motion to commissioners at 2 billion shillings. And away from Parliament, now to the Uganda People's Defence Forces, the deputy spokesperson of UPDF, Colonel Deo Akiki, has responded to allegations linking the UPDF to M23 rebels. He said UPDF has no links to M23 whatsoever, as alleged by the reports. Last week, there were reports linking UPDF as one of the collaborators with M23 rebels operating in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. Colonel Deo Akiki said Uganda needs peace in DRC more than those publishing unresearched, imbalanced, and uncorroborated stories that may lack any iota of truth and are not good for the region. He said it is questionable as to why such reports falsely accuse UPDF at a time when working relationships with the Congolese force against negative forces in DRCs like ADF are at its best, and the diplomatic ties of the 2 governments of Uganda and DRC are also moving on very well. Now we move to police, where Uganda police has distanced itself from the whereabouts of the Busiki South County Member of Parliament Paul Akamba, who was rearrested on Friday at the Anti-Corruption Court after securing bail. Police spokesperson Fred Enanga told a police weekly briefing at the headquarters that police is not responsible for the rearrest of the legislator and the investigations are ongoing to locate his whereabouts. There was drama at the Anti-Corruption Court in Kampala last week after court granted bail to the Member of Parliament and he was rearrested by non-uniformed armed men. Akamba and other 2 legislators were charged with corruption. Police have denied being part of these rearrest operations. The police authority has also denied the circulating list of members of parliament purportedly to have been summoned by the Director of Criminal Investigations at Chibuli. Last week, police denied providing information for the arrest of 3 legislators until they were presented to court. Meanwhile, police are investigating the emergency attacks launched on police posts and brutalizing of police officers. In Buyende, 8 suspects were apprehended for the attempted murder of Detective Corporal Godfrey Obongi, and the incident has resurfaced in Padeha Otuke. Police have established that unscrupulous individuals attack police posts and officers with the intent of stealing guns. And finally, on the local scene, police have disrupted leaders of the opposition's planned tour of Rubiji wetland, where NEMA evicted over 1,000 people last week. The leader of opposition in Parliament, Joe Senyonyi, was on assessment visit when police fired tear gas. Police have disrupted the leaders of opposition's planned assessment tour. In company of other members of parliament, the leader of opposition, Joe Senyonyi's assessment never yielded after police fired tear gas to disperse the crowds. Before the incident, members of parliament interfaced with some of the affected people, but this was amidst tight security. Leader of opposition, Joe Senyonyi and team attempted to visit the site to receive a petition from the affected persons, which never went as planned. Everyone scattered for safety. The site remained under tight security with several key spots guarded to avert confusion. Under the Lubiju wetland restoration, NEMA plans to continue with evictions in all gazetted wetlands. Meanwhile, other structures are already marked for the next demolition. The National Environment Management Authority embarked on eviction to restore the degraded wetland.
Interesting news coming in from the local scene, but now we switch and look at what's happening across the world, with Russia's President Vladimir Putin visiting North Korea for the first time in 24 years. Russian President Vladimir Putin is to visit North Korea for the first time in 24 years today, Tuesday. Mr. Putin will meet North Korean leader Kim Jong-un for talks in the capital, Pyongyang. The two leaders last met in September in the Russian city of Vladivostok, but this is Mr. Putin's first visit to Pyongyang since 2000. The United States said it was concerned about the deepening relationship between these two countries. The Kremlin has described the event as a friendly state visit, with Russian media reporting Mr. Putin and Mr. Kim may sign a partnership agreement, including on security issues, and will give joint statements to the media. A parade in Kim Sung Square is anticipated. Mr. Putin is also expected to watch a concert and visit the Orthodox Church of the Life-Giving Trinity in Pyongyang, the only Orthodox church in North Korea. There are reports Mr. Putin will stay at the Kamsunsan guest house in Pyongyang, where Chinese leader Jinping last stayed during his state visit to North Korea in 2019. Now moving on, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has dissolved his 6-member war cabinet, a widely expected decision that follows the departure of centrist opposition leader Benny Gantz and his ally Gadi Eisenkot. A government spokesperson said the pre-existing security cabinet and the larger full cabinet would make decisions about the war with Hamas in Gaza. Since Mr. Gantz quit 8 days ago over what he said was the lack of strategy for the war, there have been calls from far-right ministers to take his place. By dissolving the war cabinet, Mr. Netanyahu avoids a tricky situation with his coalition partners and international allies. A spokesperson for the Israel Defense Forces said that as far as it was concerned, it would not affect the chain of command. Mr. Gantz and Mr. Eisenkot joined the National Unity Government with Mr. Netanyahu's right-wing coalition days after the start of the war in October. The two former IDF chiefs of staff announced their resignations on 9th June, with Mr. Gantz saying that the Prime Minister's leadership was preventing them from approaching true victory. Now back to South Africa. South Africa's former president Jacob Zuma has said his political party Umkhonto weSizwe will join the opposition alliance in parliament. He said it would coordinate resistance to the governing coalition led by the African National Congress. Despite this, MK said it maintained that last month's elections were rigged and wanted the results annulled. Mr. Zuma's speech on Sunday was read by MK spokesperson Lamulo Ndelela, who said the ANC was no longer part of the solution. Mr. Zuma said there was no government of national unity in South Africa and described the partnership as a white-led unholy alliance between the DA and the ANC of Ramaphosa. The ANC lost its outright majority for the first time since the end of apartheid and sealed a power-sharing agreement at the weekend with the Democratic Alliance. 3 smaller parties have joined what the ANC calls a national unity government. On Monday, the ANC announced on X that Good Party, led by the current Minister of Tourism, Patricia de Lille, would also be part of the coalition. Now looking into climate news, the United States is bracing for chaotic weather this week, with the South set to experience another heat wave following a short respite from searing temperatures earlier this month. The National Weather Service expects some areas to reach temperatures so high they will hit new daily records. And it's not just the United States. Across the Northern Hemisphere, in Europe and Asia, extreme temperatures are causing deadly heat stroke and early wildfires ahead of the start of the astronomical summer on Thursday. Here is what's happening related to the extreme weather and the climate right now. From extreme heat to unseasonable cold in the Pacific Northwest, the United States is facing a myriad of extremes. The Rocky Mountains may get a late bout of snow, while further south, firefighters in Los Angeles are dealing with their first major fire of the season, and Phoenix will experience more days above 110 degrees Fahrenheit, 43 degrees Celsius. With temperatures of up to 116 degrees Fahrenheit, 47 degrees Celsius in Mecca, Saudi Arabia on Sunday, at least 14 pilgrims marking the start of Eid al-Adha died of heat stroke, according to Jordan's state-run Petra news agency. Well, that concludes our international news. Now we get to Jerome Paul Sonko for a dose of what's in the dailies today.
Well, with me, I have copies of the New Vision Daily Monitor and some of those coming in from the East African region, with which we start off from what the New Vision is highlighting this Tuesday. Security vets parliament chairpersons, and then the NRM SEC members clash over the nominees. Find out more in the family series. God is love and grace sustain marriages. And then education, why government wants nursery schools built in markets. Then members of parliament committed to High Court for trial. Victoria of 2 members of parliament at the front page of the New Vision today. Then in crime, police bust gang behind 800 fake land titles. Then in Her Vision, women honor great fathers and husbands. That is, read about the diaries of Father's Day. Now, the Daily Monitor, Mohozi orders arrest of errant army drivers. Find more details in the Daily Monitor. As polio outbreak, health officials call for vigilance and vaccination. In Healthy Living, mental health addressing the crisis at the workplace. And police says we do not support M23 rebels. Oh, apologies for that. The Daily Monitor highlights today, school food leaves a bitter taste, according to the government. Non-communicable diseases as for the risk foods, then there is foods without sufficient nutrients, and then foods recommended by neutralists are still in the Daily Monitor today. Now, Rainbow magazine says celebrate the Day of the African Child. Then FDC funding new budget will squeeze Ugandans, says FDC. Then Mark student arrested trafficking monkeys and snakes to Congo. Then also interview Gary Skinner's Walk of Faith and the untold story of Watoto Church. Then also police summons members of parliament over cooperative societies cash scandal. That is with the Daily Monitor. Now let's head to Kenya. The Daily Nation, all eyes on members of parliament over the new taxes in Kenya. As taxes now cross 40% of the price of litre of petrol. Then Muthama's new stance, former chairman of President Ruto's party, warms up to Kalonzo. Then defiant coast governors say no to Ruto on Muguka ban. In the courts as well, man wins battle to remove name from birth certificate. And then go slow, resume work tomorrow, Kome tells judiciary staff. And then there is also a report that says we once had a daughter. That is Michelle McKenna was diagnosed with lupus, a rare chronic disease, after 3 months in ICU. And she also shares her ordeal with the disease. Then looking into what the Business Daily, that is also from Kenya, is highlighting, insurance funds swamped by surge in floods damage claims. And then also taxes in the price of a litre of fuel now crosses 40% mark, says the Business Daily. Then Kenyans relocate to US at fastest rate in 10 years. Also Family Bank gets nod to form unit for acquisitions. Then Kiri profits from Zipri down from 48% on weak shilling as Treasury cuts foreign commercial loans by 41%. Now, lastly, from our press reviews, the Citizen newspaper, what expiry of US-Saudi petrodollar pact means for Tanzania. Then Ruto speaks out on a court shooting of magistrate. Then Smart World in education, unlocking the joy of learning for children, as the private sector should have bigger role in energy development. That is according to US Deputy Secretary of Energy, David Tuck. Then elections, peaceful coexistence dominate Eid messages in Tanzania. That is it from our press review this morning.
Well, thank you, Jerome Paul. Now we take a break. Are you feeling like a winner today? Well, here is Heart of a Winner from B2C. Enjoy.
Hearing these stories about swindling public funds, and when you have the culprits and then we also get the evidence,
yes,
like you've mentioned, if they are found guilty, then obviously if you're found guilty, you have to pay. You have to face the punishment by law.
Yes.
So that means it won't shock, it will shock me, but again, it will be the best solution.
Why will you be shocked?
Because why it will shock me, because as our leaders, we expect them to be exemplary. And if you find that all evidence is driving towards the same leaders who have been saying that it's just alleged, and if the evidence comes out and it completely shows that they have been involved, you know, there are certain things that happen and you're like, anyways, maybe it's allegations and stuff. But if at all the evidence comes out and proves that these people have been involved in these corruption tendencies, and then, of course, there were also reports last week that one legislator had millions of money in the house. So when you hear all of these cases and then you get the same evidence that puts this person behind the coolers, I think it is a shocker because it is a leader. But then, of course, it won't be a surprise because if you're guilty, by law, you're supposed to face it rough at the end of the day. And of course, justice has to serve, has to prevail. And then furthermore, citing a cautious warning to any other leader who wants to indulge in such acts in the long run.
In the long run, one pertinent statement and question that the president asked when news of the 500 million shillings that was given to the former leader of opposition in parliament, Mathias Mpuga, and his cronies, the president asked, do we have enough money to go around, yet we have infrastructure like roads that needs to be developed? Where is this money coming from, and was it legal? Has there been an investigation? He even put the Attorney General to the task to find out if what was done was either legal or illegal. And here we are now, we have some members of parliament already on remand. Good morning, Mr. Chirabo Robert Nyenyintono. I love your names.
Well, good morning. I love you. I don't want to make a mistake. But
Try.
I think it's a type of green.
Yes.
And, well, for us who have lived long, we know only light green, dark green. So I may, is this grass green?
It is neon green.
Come again?
Neon green.
okay. Now, I was hearing and listening to my young brother
Yeah.
trying to put so much on something you asked about. I just want to tell Ugandans, I've lived long enough that I'm no longer excited by arrests of corruption.
Why so?
Because it is like in the Bible, there is where Jesus said, or the scriptures say, and I want to put this to our situation in Uganda, that it is as hard as a needle, it is as hard as a camel passing in the eye of a needle.
Pick of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by
I'll call you every day, yeah, yo, baby, don't know.
You can now get all the Chibuzi out with MTN voice bundles. Call all networks. Kubei Dondoro. Buy a 25-minute voice bundle for only 1,000. Or buy any daily voice bundle of your choice. Dial *100 *21 hash and select daily or use the My MTN app. When we talk together, we are unstoppable.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
According to the World Bank, a report of the World Bank in 2020, corruption costs Uganda 10% of its GDP annually. And also 71% of Ugandans believe corruption is a major problem in the country. This even has been reiterated by the President, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. And also, Uganda ranks 137th out of 180 countries in Transparency International's Corruption Perception Index. And this is according to Transparency International 2020. So when we talk about corruption in Uganda, this is, I like to call it a cancer that has gone deep down into the bonds of our society, into the bonds of our country, into the bonds of government institutions, but also private entities. There is corruption pretty much everywhere. And now today we see members of parliament being remanded over corruption, and we see that others are scared that they might be arrested regarding the same. But these are not the only ones. Actually, for me, I think these are just outliers, but there is a bigger conversation regarding corruption in the country, even when we take our focus away from our leaders, like members of parliament, like ministers. There is corruption pretty much everywhere. But the thing is, when we talk about corruption in the country, many Ugandans only focus their guns at the leaders. But how about you? How about that 10K, 5K that you put aside to give someone as you go through Kampala's roads or Uganda's roads to avoid a traffic ticket? How about that? Is it corruption or is it not? Personally, I think that's also corruption. But anyway, we look into how we can, as a country, collectively fight this cancer. How we can ensure that we have a Uganda that does not have corruption. Is it just a dream, or it is a dream that can actually be achieved? Uganda's anti-corruption efforts date back to the 1990s. And to this day, 2024, we are still fighting. And we should not give up. That's my belief. Well, my name is Olive Monica Najuma with Chirabo Robert Nyonyintono and Joram Paul Sonko in Studio B. Now, starting with you, Mr. Nyonyintono. Corruption.
Now, it's very unfortunate.
Yes.
That the word corruption has become a household name. Because wherever you go, we talk about corruption in this country. It's very hard for you to attend service Namirembe Cathedral, Rubaga Cathedral, and the many born-again churches, the mosques, and you don't hear corruption being talked about. Those that attended Eid prayers, Old Kampala, Chibuli, everywhere. And this Eid was very different because we saw Muslims go to the mosque on Sunday, as also Christians were going to church. So it means the spiritual heads had so much time to speak to the flock and in huge numbers. But the question I'm always asking myself, do we have the will to fight corruption? Are Ugandans willing to fight corruption? Or are we all just speaking about corruption? Because we know they're corrupt. Are we willing to let the corrupt face the wrath of the law? That is a question we must ask ourselves. Because look, we have the law, the Anti-Corruption Act 2009 is there. We have institutions, over 5 powerful institutions. The Office of the IGG, the Auditor General, you have State House and Corruption Unit, you have the Anti-Corruption Court. You people, we are good with institutions, we are good with the law. Now what is lacking? What is lacking is the will. We've reached a point where we only condemn corruption when we do not benefit from corruption. I just want to give you a very simple incident that I watched last year when we had candidates sit. And we had people wanting their children to go to good schools. A number of parents bribe, I want to mention the schools, to have their children bagule before. These are facts, you know.
That's true.
You know? They tell you the child didn't get these marks. You're saying, but
These are the cut-off points.
these are the cut-off points. But a parent will push to see how does my child get in this school.
So do these
And-
parents consider this to be corruption,
Now,
or they think they're just
This is
helping
why I'm
their
saying
children?
that are we willing to fight corruption? I've seen, I want to go back to the days of Chogam. There was one VIP who was arrested and taken to Ruzira. I don't want to mention the name. Now, I saw a caucus because he was coming from Buganda. I saw a Buganda caucus go to visit a fellow because he's theirs. I saw a leader of a very big institution, a religious institution, going to visit, show solidarity, and stand with this person.
I think that's a whole different story.
No.
Visiting
Let me tell
someone
you.
because they're in prison.
Let me tell you, if we want to fight corruption, we have to name shame and even not associate with these people. For us in our village where I come from, we have a word, tubabola.
Okay.
You don't be a father and you impregnate your daughter and you sit with us when we are drinking. We shun away from you. We de-associate ourselves with you. The parents, they would disassociate in Uganda. Tata azaru kukuwa mwana akola ebyekisiru ebivoola ebiswaza ekika.
Okay. Now,
Today, just
yes.
as I come to conclusion on this first. Today, I want to say Ugandans, our heads, we are doing lip service. But we have not taken the path to hate, to shun the corrupt, to say no. Look at when a person is arrested today in a corruption scandal. How we rush to save this person.
In what way are we rushing to save the person?
You're going to see group mates, sometimes even you see the clergy. And our aim is not to say, how even we rush, who do you know that we can see in this? Who do we know? Who do we know?
Now,
how can we?
Jerome, I would like to bring you into
we don't. We are
this
just speaking and
conversation.
speaking about it. But
Well,
Chirabo did mention that when we speak about corruption, our heads just condemn it when they have not benefited from it. And the same conversation has actually come up regarding some of the things we've seen in Parliament. I'll use the biggest example, the cash bonanza for the backbench commissioners. And the censure motion that Sechikubo is passing around to be signed by members of Parliament, people are saying this is being done because the rest did not share.
And on that, a quick one.
Of course, which is bringing out the what Chira was mentioning, that we have a problem with the silence from the people who are supposed to be vocal about such situations, whereby if at all one is, let's say, remanded, or one is facing the law over corruption cases or a corruption scandal, many of his friends are going to side with him so that he's not sent to the coolers, or so that he doesn't face the law. So that means even when they know what he did was wrong, they would prefer keeping quiet, or they would prefer siding with him against those who are reporting the scandal. Now, which is also indicative of the kind of society we are in today, that we are the same people who are, criticizing corrupt officials. But at the end of it all, when a colleague or a friend of mine is engaging in the corruption scandals or has been involved in any given sort of a bribe, I will not say anything about it. So I'll just take his side. And yet, he's supposed to face the law. I've been looking at some of the figures here of the Anti-Corruption Resource Center, where they revealed that last year, 38% of Ugandans were only able to access public service by paying a bribe. Now, when you look at it from a figure of 38%, remember public service is supposed to be free. But if someone is supposed to bribe in order to receive or to access public service, then there are so many questions to ask. One of which, why are they paying the money to access the service? Are they trying to beat a given, sort of bureaucratic process they are supposed to pass through? Or is it the way forward? Are the people who are supposed to be giving them these services asking for these bribes before they offer the free services? Because it's public service. Now, going back to what Chirao mentioned, of course, like the example you've used of the commissioner and the like, you also get to realize that with some of the cases of the remanded members of parliament we are having today, not so many of, let's say, their friends, especially fellow legislators, are backing, these allegations, or many of them are backing the law to penalize them. Many of the fellow legislators are rather questioning how they are handling the members of parliament. How they are being arrested. How they are being handled. And yet, we've also had situations where Ugandans have been handled in the same way, and these same legislators have not mentioned a word or two against the same. Now, to them, it is now impunity because it's happening to a fellow member of parliament or a fellow legislator. But in a situation where it's happening to an ordinary Ugandan, their own voters, they're so silent. Now, which shows you that it does look like our society knows corruption is bad. It's more like we know that sinning is not something we're supposed to do. It is against the 10 commandments in the Bible. But we continuously sin. We continuously do it. We continuously do it with our self-conscious, and then having it at the back of our minds that, well, I will sin, then I'll go and seek for forgiveness and repent. But if you're continuously doing the same thing, it doesn't make sense at the end of the day. And it's what we're having in society today. You have members of parliament who are moving from one scandal to another scandal, but then they are comfortably seated because they know, anyway, if I'm arrested today, I won't take a long time in prison. I'll get out, and then I'll continue with with my traits.
So the country has enacted anti-corruption laws over the years and has also put in place institutions geared towards fighting the vice, that is corruption. We have, for example, laws like the Anti-Corruption Act 2009 and the Public Finance Management Act 2015. So we are good when it comes to the laws, but we lack in implementation. So how best can we strengthen Uganda's anti-corruption institutions to make them more effective? Because we have the laws, we have the institutions, but implementation is not effective.
Now,
how can we do this?
I want to take you to a country called Singapore. Many political analysts have talked about Singapore and Uganda. Yes, we have geographical differences and a few differences here and there. But Singapore once had a leader called Lee Kuan Yew. Now, when this person took power, Singapore had issues of corruption.
Yes.
Now, when Lee Kuan Yew took power, his best friend, actually a person who was his best man, was found culpable. And he said to set an example, go to the cooler. I think he gave him life imprisonment. And the wife came when we read these books and said, but how dare you do this? He said, we are setting a precedent for Singapore. Singapore has had its own challenges, but greatly fought corruption, and look at where they are today. Now, in Uganda we are having, one, we lack the will. People, when you have the will, it's like you have the will to come and work here. Whether it has rained, you come for Good Morning Uganda. We lack the will. That when you have the will, there are sacrifices you make, but to change a situation or get your will. Two, now you have a problem. You're not only having corruption, you're having what they call syndicate corruption.
Which one is that?
Now, syndicate corruption is that when I'm stealing,
You don't
when I'm
steal
taking
alone.
money, I'm not alone. You have a member of parliament on a committee.
Yes.
You have officials from Ministry of Finance. So it's a chain that when you come to Nab Chirabo and you come to collect evidence from my sister,
Yes.
we shared. So she has to protect me so that she's also saved. When you go to Sonko, Sonko has to do the same because it's a racket. So no one is going to steal one. That's why you hear these issues of the commissioners of parliament. No one is going to take 1.7 billion alone. So we take many. And because
in
we
so
lack the
doing
will,
that,
I'm going to
yes.
give you a very simple example. I've listened to some members of parliament that for a long time in my profession I've respected. One is Mohammed Nsereko. I love Mohammed Nsereko because he's one member of parliament who has stood against hooliganism, political hooliganism. And I love him for that.
In his own party.
In his own, he's an independent anyway. But where there is political hooliganism, whether an NRM, in NUP, he will discipline you, Ajabawa, verbal artillery and all that. And I love people who stand to their guts, not shaken by waves and all that. Now, I saw Muhammad Nsereko say, I cannot stand against Mpuga. He's a friend. He's a Smanyi Muganda. My children will not hear that Nsereko is the one who was among the Kukakun that then threw Mpuga. You see?
So loyalty
And I was like,
surpasses
is this the man?
national interest.
I saw my member of parliament where I come from, Honorable Segona. A man I equally respect. He has a good career. I respect to some level. Saying similar wording. I saw, to conclude this, I saw a journalist,
Because I was actually
Honorable
coming out,
Semujunganda.
Oh my
I was,
goodness.
you know,
That one was
Very
a shock,
vocal,
I think, for
very
everyone.
vocal. He's hit on everyone on corruption. He's even on the floor of parliament, even seemingly in his arguments, insulted in a way or the other. About corruption. He came out and said, even parliament allows that if you have interest, you declare. You get it.
I read somewhere where someone said that, you know, they were referring to Honorable Matthias Mpuga, where someone was saying that he owes diplomacy and that is why they cannot look into him and try to belittle or put him down simply because of some of those cases.
So
and in my mind, I'm like, how do you use political diplomacy if at all you have such scandals attached to you?
That's
So do
why
you
If that
think
is
that
politics, then.
therein lies the problem, that we would rather respect and honor people even when their character is now questionable? Instead of holding them accountable, we are now respecting them because
No, it shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't be that way, and it's something that we really need to change. Because if we want a society that has to change, the level of integrity has, you know, Chiraba shared Singapore as some of those countries that take corruption scandals seriously.
China,
I've seen even yesterday, there was a report I presented with the Business News where Adidas is trying to, you know, follow up a corruption scandal with its base in China. And when you look at, you know, the whistleblowers are fellow Chinese who are giving out names of their, you know, the site managers who are also Chinese, which shows for them they know that corruption deters growth and development. So that means whether you're bigger than me or you're my immediate supervisor and you're in this scandal, I am definitely going to report you. And the law is going to prevail, which is missing here.
So Sonko, yes, that is missing here in some ways. But where do we start? Because you will say that the rot is at the top, but is it really at the top? Because if a parent is bribing to have their child join a school, if a driver is giving a traffic officer a bribe so that they don't get a traffic ticket or a speeding ticket, if you are paying certain amounts of money, small amounts or big amounts at an individual level to get an advantage over other people, and then we have the leaders, where should we start?
Integrity.
If we say that we are fighting corruption as a vice in our country, where do we start? Because looking at members of parliament and political leaders, is that where we should start?
No, I think we should start with integrity. I'm going to share a story of a trader I met last week in downtown. I was going to buy, I should say, some simple sandals at home. For home rather. Now, just 2 weeks before I went back on Saturday, I had gone to the same trader and bought the same shoes at a lesser price. If I'm to remember so well, it was then 50,000. Now, just Saturday when I went back, I think because he saw me dressed in a different way, he told me it's now 90.
Wow.
And I asked him, what level of integrity are you trying to exercise? Is it because I'm dressed differently today that you're changing the price of the commodity? And what he told me was, to him is like, this is how Kampala works. Now, when you start having that kind of mindset from an ordinary citizen, now imagine what is going to happen to, let's say, a commissioner in parliament, let's say an accounting officer, because we've had situations where an accounting officer in, let's say, a given ministry or government agency will ask for, let's say, 1 billion Ugandan shillings. And with the 1 billion Ugandan shillings, not all of that money is going to be used for a given service. It is only asked for accountability purposes, but when you look at the breakdown of the money, you will realize that either 400 million was swindled, but then in the accountability matters, it shows it was used by someone or was used by the ministry, yet it went to someone else. So the element of integrity is something that we lack in the society we are in today. We lack truthfulness as people. When you also go down to everyone, people are not truthful, by the way. You will realize that in the country we are in today, you will find very few people who are truthful. And if you find them in society, they are always criticized for how they live their lives. Even when you go into church, you will be surprised by how much people do certain things simply because of money. And at times, these are the same people who are shooting for higher offices. So if you fail to live within your society and be truthful within, what then will happen when you're managing a country's finances that look way over? Because if you're just given a simple plate of food and you cannot share with colleagues, then what will happen if you have a huge table of lasagna all on your own?
Okay, now, Robert, in families, we normally have consequences for actions. And let's say if you do something that is against that household's rules, there are going to be consequences. And this is how, as parents, we ensure integrity, loyalty, and good manners, good overall manners within our children. Now, going back to the country at large, do you think that probably, because this is now again where I bring in government, that for people to have integrity, for people to know that if I do this, I'm going to be held accountable, maybe by the police or the courts of law in the country. So do you think that probably we still need to go back to the country, to the government, and in what ways can the government ensure that it holds people accountable from the lowest level to the highest?
Now, I want to begin by quoting the words of the late Speaker of Parliament, Jacob Olanya. When he was at Kolo Ceremonial Grounds, we had what we called the anti-corruption march. Those that remember, it was from Constitutional Square or City Square all the way to Kololo. He said, Your Excellency, all of us here are corrupt. We are just here for cameras and ceremonial activity, but thereafter we are going to go back and go into corruption. Let's start by all of us accepting that we are corrupt.
Yes.
Now, let's all aid corruption. That I will not aid corruption in any manner. Now then, government, we don't have weak laws. I don't believe in that thought. Because the weak laws, I've seen Jamie Ramafa, I've seen Chandik Jamwar, I've seen Geoffrey Kazinda, I've seen a handful. And I don't want to call these were sacrificial lambs. I want to believe it was the law working. So let's ensure that we do not apply selective justice. You're my friend, you're corrupt. Please go to the gallows. I'll assist your children study. Serve a sentence. Let them come back. But let me not hinder justice prevailing to hold you accountable. You see, that is why these are the countries, how these countries have succeeded, the likes of Singapore's, that my best friend will be corrupt.
Yes.
My long-standing whatever, my in-law, my what. But I'll say, yes, go face the wrath of the law. Let me, in the meantime, if you're 10 years, look after your family. See that the children have education. Let's provide food for them. Let's provide rent. But go. Now, these kids will grow knowing we didn't have daddy home for 10 years. Uncle Bob paid fees and this.
And the reason we didn't have daddy for 10 years, yes,
so
daddy.
we won't be corrupt. But the issue we are doing here is seeing our friends off the hook and not allowing successful prosecution. In Uganda, finally I say, it is easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than successfully seeing a corrupt person face the wrath of law to conclusion.
And that's where we will end this conversation. We've been looking into corruption tendencies in the country. How best can we ensure that we fight corruption in Uganda? The efforts to fight against corruption started way back in the 90s. Laws have been enacted. Institutions have been put in place to fight against corruption, but still, every time the president addresses the nation, he mentions corruption. Everyone is crying corruption. So how do we stop it? This is the conversation we've been having, and if you missed it, you can catch it on our YouTube channel. For now, we'll take a short break, and when we come back, we will have the Good Morning Uganda Tourism Express, and later on, business.
Juko.
Yo.
Wachikuwa. Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Uganda, haven't you heard of the parish development model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, Sebatia. It is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a portrait project, and now things are moving.
Juko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief, and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
You are most welcome to Sempaya Hot Springs once again, and as I told you that Sempaya Hot Springs are gender sensitive, we started our views and walks from the male hot spring. Now we're ending up here. This is the magnificent female hot springs. You can see, most beautiful, none of this kind in this country other than Semuliki National Park. So when you hear, I told you that the males hot spring, the other side is extremely very hot. But again, when you come to the female, it's also not that cold. It's very hot. The temperatures ever recorded here, the highest has been 103 degrees Celsius. Very high temperatures. When it is hot, even your phone might reject taking a photograph. It's very important that we know that the hot spring environment is very fragile, so you are always advised to keep along the boardwalks and as guided by your guide, because the water, once you slip off, you are likely to get burnt. So observe the rules and regulations and make sure that safety first. As I told you, the other side, when the Bamaga were moving around trying to look for Bitente, who is the person traditionally who disappeared from the site of the male, and this side, the wife of Bitente, called Nansimbi, went looking for his husband, and the husband disappeared. And when people searched for her, for Bitente, and then the wife also searched for the husband, equally the two people disappeared. The female ended up disappearing from these places. They looked around, and fortunately one lucky person landed on the remains of the female. That one who is called Nyansimbi. Nyansimbi means associated with money. So what happens in tradition, in the culture of the Bamaga people? The Bamaga people believe that the ancestors stay here. The Sempaya Hot Springs is the headquarters of the ancestors of Bamaga. So annually, when these guys get problems, when they have low yields, when they have a lot of ailments, unexplained challenges, there's a very low productivity, they say the ancestors are very disappointed. What they do, they come here and prepare for appeasement. They organize goats, chicken, all kinds of food. But they are very careful. The females will only come on the female side. The males will go to the male side and slaughter the he-goats, the cocks on the other side of the male. But on the side of the female, they will bring only the she-goats and then the chicken, and make sure that they don't mix up the gender. As you can see, this place is spacious. It gives an opportunity for visitors, however many they are, to congregate, to be able to enjoy, to prepare food as much as they can and interact. That's what the mother does in the home, is always preparing for the family. So the female springs here also does the same. You are able to prepare your food, interact, even be able to touch the water, which you cannot do at the male hot spring. So the Bamaga do carry out an annual event of appeasing to their ancestors by making sacrifices And after making sacrifices, the barren women will be able to produce very well, the yields will increase, all the family problems traditionally will disappear. So as Uganda Welfare Authority, we believe in people's culture, we promote cultural tourism, and we have supported the Bamaga to always go through their rituals. And please, I request the Ugandans that this is the only site in this country where you can do all these things and visit. Besides that, this water is very, very curative. It is a healing center naturally, where you can be able to come even if you have malaria. Please, we don't tell you that we only come here to treat malaria. First go for treatment, but then to remove the remains of the drugs you come here. Because you are going to sweat and your body will be so nice. Very free massage. And you will also prepare free natural food from here. You boil eggs, there's salt in it. You boil ruombo, we have Sempaya ruombo, where you only organize your food, immerse it in the hot water. It's ready for you. Meat, chicken, 1 hour. By the time you come back from your activities, everything is wow, well cooked, nice aroma. Please come and enjoy this as Ugandans. You are most welcome to the Female Springs.
As we come to the end of our journey through Semuliki National Park and particularly Sempaya Hot Springs, we are left in awe of the natural wonders that are here. The place is so much endowed in beautiful landscape, the hot springs, the nature, the green lush, like everything is super amazing. And it is one place that is calling you. It is becoming several tourists from different parts of the world. However, it is interesting to know that the numbers of tourists coming into this country, say in a year, if you get like 30,000 tourists to the park, we have at least 90% of these tourists bringing the East African residents. So that is amazing that we, the East Africans and Ugandans, we are embracing the beauty that we have in the country. So if you're this one Ugandan who has not yet embraced exploring Uganda, I don't know what you're waiting for, because it is this perfect time when tourism is so much booming and also growing at a very fast rate that you need to embrace such activities and travel around Uganda, explore the beautiful parks that we have, and come to Sempaya Hot Springs. I am Irene Allen Amisang. This is the GMTV Express. Catch you tomorrow.
Welcome along to GMU Business now. I'm Joram Paul Sonko. Now we head to Nansana, as many residents have been left displaced due to the NEMA evictions over the past few days. Now the entrepreneurs within the same area are counting losses because of the businesses that were destroyed due to the same evictions. Now this all happened along the Lubiji wetland in Nansana municipality in Wakiso district, as the entrepreneurs are counting losses as their businesses were also demolished, along with the homes that were demolished by the National Environment Management Authority. Now the UBC crew assessed the after effects of the operation on businesses after the president declared that all people working and living in wetlands should vacate. Residents and entrepreneurs formerly living and working in Lubiji wetland also lost millions of shillings due to these evictions. Now, the National Environment Management Authority implemented the directive demolishing settlements and property in Lubiji wetland in Nansana municipality, and of course at the same time leaving many of the business owners counting losses and without their businesses and without a plan B of how they can kickstart off their business or to kind of rejuvenate their business settlements elsewhere after being destroyed. Now, property at the end of it all was also destroyed. Remember, with these evictions, it did happen at a time when no one was prepared for anything. It was after NEMA quickly kick-started the evictions that many of the Ugandans realized that it's a very serious sort of campaign or kind of directive that they should take seriously. Of course, the drive by NEMA is to ensure that they protect the environment. However much many Ugandans are also concerned about the fact that some other people have not been evicted even though they are settled in the wetlands. Now, NEMA demolition enforcement might affect even more businesses neighboring Nasana municipality, including the tax park and 2 fuel stations in proximity. And well, we await to see the developments coming in from those settled around the Lubigi wetland or those who also had businesses within the wetland. Now, aside from that, but as we still stand with those in business, and we pray and hope that they will be able to at least kickstart off a simple business venture that will see their businesses rise yet again. Now, away from that, we now head to Bukedia because cereal farmers in Bukedia district have been urged to utilize modern farming techniques in order to boost agro production and also increase on their levels of agricultural produce. Now, during a field visit and training of sorghum farmers in Bukedia district, the extension officer, also in charge of research in Nile Breweries Limited, that is Okoth Justin, said poor farming methods are definitely some things that affect farming yields or that affect the farm produce, if you come to think of it. Now, Nile Breweries Limited has embarked on building the capacity of sorghum farmers within Bukedia district to realize better harvests and to further promote better farming practices. Now, Okoth Justin, an extension officer in charge of research with Nile Breweries Limited, says that the training to farmers also involve financial literacy and management because as much as you're helping them learn how to increase on their produce and also use modern methods, but then they should also have financial literacy and they should as well know how to manage the finances that they get from their various agricultural ventures. Now, Bukedia District Agriculture Officer Ogota Jude also identified the deadly weed to sorghum striga and advised farmers to use crop rotation to realize a good harvest of sorghum. And most farmers want support from the District Agriculture Department and other stakeholders in relation to capacity building in order to produce quality sorghum because at the end of the day, the quality has to meet the standards of the many agricultural products on the market, not only within Bukedia district, but across the country and crossing the borders to the neighboring Kenya as well. And now, that aside, we now switch to the forex market as we close up our business update this morning to see how the different currencies were faring on the exchange. Now, starting it off with the US dollar at the opening time, the US dollar was buying at 3,706.42 while selling at 3,716.42. And then by midday, the US dollar was buying at 3,698.83 while selling at 3,708.83. Then closing time saw the US dollar buy at 3,697.83 while selling at 3,707.83. The Great Britain pound was buying at 3,953. That's the euro. The euro was buying at 3,953.71 while selling at 3,964.41. The Great Britain pound was buying at 4,684.78 while selling at 4,697.44. Now, looking at the Kenyan shilling, it was buying at 28.66 shillings while selling at 28.74 shillings. And then the Tanzanian shilling was buying at 1.41 shillings while selling at 1.42 shillings. The South African rand was buying at 201.13 shillings while selling at 201.67 shillings. And that's how you will find the forex market courtesy of the Bank of Uganda, and that is how the Ugandan shilling is faring against other currencies on the exchange. I'll be back tomorrow to give you the latest from the world of business, but as of now, Olive Monica Najuma is right here to take you through with the traffic updates. So stick around, more is yet to come. Good morning.
Well, it's a beautiful morning. Thank you for sticking with us here on Good Morning Uganda. I'm Olive Monica Najuma with the traffic updates. But before we delve into those, there have been issues when NEMA and other officials raised houses back in Lubigi and areas of Uganda. And of course, many businesses must have been affected. Now, Jerome Paul, what do you think the situation is like over there? Which kind of businesses have been the most affected with
quite
this?
many, because when you look at most of the businesses in Uganda, especially businesses of, let's say, outdoor businesses, because there was a lady there's a lady called Judith Ayebare who has been having a house which also has a stock store or our ordinary dukas within the suburbs there. So it was a house but also harboring her kaduka somewhere, and she has been living in the same area since 2009. Now you can only imagine this particular person losing both the business and the house. Then the other businesses that were affected include construction sites, not construction site, but rather construction making business, construction material making businesses, those who manufacture pavers and try to sell building stones. And then we have people who have been having let's say other simple businesses around. We've also had mechanics who have been having garages around the same areas. That is all in the same locality around the Lubigi wetland. So many of those businesses are no more simply because of the NEMA evictions.
My goodness. You know what they say, when it rains, it pours.
Indeed.
This is exactly what happened in Lubigi. And I really feel sorry for the traders and even the residents that have now lost it all. I don't even know what they're going to do. There is that picture of an older lady that has been making rounds online,
Yes.
who is holding a chicken, and she's looking at the ruins of what used to be her home.
And of course, many people are asking for compensation, which of course, if you come to think of it, is something that everybody would wish should happen. Because there are people who have been paying busulu to the Buganda Kingdom because of the Buganda Land Board. And then also, we have people who have been there for quite some time. And at the end of the day, you ask yourself, if at all the officials who have been receiving, let's say, taxes from these businesses, if at all they knew that these businesses were in wetlands, how then can they support them? Because at the end of the day, you have Ugandans who have been, clearing or paying their taxes
Annually, and now they don't have
anywhere to go.
hold on to.
And they bought this land from, let's say, licensed landowners. So at the end of the day, there are so many questions to ask around the same. But of course, it doesn't make it right for anyone to settle within the wetland though.
I understand that. Many questions, very few answers, but we will now delve into our traffic updates, and we will take you right in Chibuye around the roundabout to see how you can get to the heart of town. And what you see there is the roundabout in Chibuye. We have the Kampala Entebbe Road joining Chibuye roundabout, but also we have Mobutu Road and Queensway all joining this roundabout, and to see how we get to the middle of town. Now, from there, I see the traffic situation is not that bad for those coming in from Entebbe Road. Just a few phases and stages here and there where you will encounter traffic jam. Those coming in from Makindye, the same. You will only encounter traffic jam when you are approaching the roundabout in Chibuye. Now, following the route to through Queensway, there is a smooth flow of traffic over here, and going ahead, I see that as we go through the areas of Katwe, we still have a smooth flow of traffic in this area. Surrounding roads like Katwe Road also have smooth flow of traffic, and now we encounter this other roundabout that connects you to Mukwano Road and other parts of town. It connects you to Nsambia Road, and I see that even here there is smooth flow of traffic, save for a little red zone just around the roundabout. Continuing with Entebbe Road, we have a traffic jam now coming in from that roundabout at Queensway, and it is taking us along Entebbe Road. A few sections have smooth flow of traffic depending on which side of town you're headed to, but continuing with Entebbe Road and connecting to Kampala Road, we have smooth flow of traffic along Kampala Road, and even surrounding roads look pretty clear. This morning, Nasa Road is clear, Nkrumah Road is clear. There is smooth flow of traffic in all these areas. Now around Station Road, just outside United Bank for Africa, we have smooth flow of traffic even here. And still continuing with Ginger Road, I see that there is smooth flow of traffic for those coming in from the side of Ginger Road. Well, that does it for our traffic updates this morning. Good Morning Uganda does continue, and when we come back during the agenda segment, we'll be speaking matters domestic violence among the elderly. Stick around.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by.
I'll call you every day, yeah, yo, baby, don't go low.
You can now get all the Chibuzi out with MTN voice bundles. Call all networks. Kubei Dondoro. Buy a 25-minute voice bundle for only 1,000. Or buy any daily voice bundle of your choice. Dial *100*21# and select daily, or use the My MTN app. When we talk together, we are unstoppable.
UBC is the national public broadcaster. We educate, inform, entertain, and inspire our audiences. You can watch us on free-to-air channel 001, DSTV channel 282, GoTV channel 371, Star Times channel 201, Zuku TV channel 20, and Azam TV channel 350. Even when your subscription expires, you can still watch UBC for free on your pay TV platforms.
Juko.
Yo.
Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Haven't you heard of the parish development model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, Sebatia. It is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a portrait project, and now things are moving.
Juko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. But what you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that.
Okay.
The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
Amanya Dola Nasimu nga ndi mulimi wa butiko. Zansanga nga nnima butiko nga mazemu emyaka nga 5. Kati bwe bazimpa nenyongeramu mu business. Nenziramu nendeeta nga bwe tubigula nga biri bwe biti. Okigula nga kiramba. Then n'okireeta n'okiteeka somewhere in a dark place. Kati then bw'okiteekawo after 10 to 15 days. N'okiteekawo nekikyuka kala oba kikuwa kifaana bwe kiti. Then n'okiteekawo nekifuuka kala. Then bw'omaliriza n'otandika okukiteeka kuno ku gundi ku madaala. N'otandika okukifukirira kuba twafuna n'ebbomba. Tubifuna nga biri bwe biti ng'ensigo ziri munda nga wano basibyeko akapapula. Kati buli lw'ofukirira pressure y'amazzi gali g'opika n'ebbumba gakimeza. Kiyita wano kuba already wabaira akapapula kukenekeneka ekitiko ky'ekyabya akapapula ako. Then nekifuluma n'okinoga. Kati after 1 month n'oddamu n'osala ensigo eri munda nayo nesigala ng'ejja kuba bw'oba okirese bw'oti ensigo tezivaayo teziggwayo. N'okisala after some time nekisigala nga kimera okuva wano. Naye kati already zino zaali nga ziweddemu. Kati nasigadde mbuukinze ngenda kuddamu kuleeta. Nali nsuubula ebintu bino 300 kuba wano ekiyumba kyali kinene nga kituuka eyo nga wonna wajjudde. Nga nsuubula 300. Kati bwe twafuna sente za parish model siri omu tuli abantu nga 10 naye tweyawulamu. Abamu balimira ewalala n'abalala ne tulimira ewalala ne tuleeta 5 nga tufunye okwongerezebwako sente ezo. Tuganyuddwamu kubanga kati most times sente ng'eno enyamba kinene nnyo. Nfuna akasente katono naye ate nekagabanya abaana nina abaana basoma. Nsobola okutoolako nempa abaana. Ate bwe nfuna nga bino kuba buno mba mbukazizza. Bwe mala okufuna buno mbuteeka ntundako nenfuna nenzizaawo capital ebisigadde ne tukola enva. Era abaana abasinga ffe kuno ku kyalo abasinga bamanyi ajjabuzi olinayo obutukukonze nina. Nti ojja kufuna enkyanga abamu mbawadde olwala era abamu ne mbawa enkya. Kati bwe biba nga byazze bingi abaana bakeza nakasero ne babitwala nakasero gye tubitunda akatale weekali. Bangi abendyetaaze era bangi abambuuza tusaze magezi ki ne tubalambululira ani gwe balina okulaba wawe balina okuyita okusobola okutuuka ku gundi kufuna sente zino. Bangi abatubuuza naffe ne tubawa kyokkola. Era bangi abambuuza lwakuba nti abasinga tebalina we balimira naye nga bangi abandyetaaze okubeera mu bulimi nga buno tubalina era sente bakyazeetaaga kukusinzira kuffe kye tufunyeemu. Buli lwakutuukako n'akwebuuza kunomuga nti funa sente za parish model. Sente si nyingi mu kuzaayo nyangu za kusasula.
A new dawn on Behind the Headlines with me, Timothy Nyangweso, every Wednesday live in